Finished.
Yo, wait a
Got
minute.
a drink.
Who's leading the ship? Stevie Wonder or Ray Charles? Which one? This is my second drink.
Cheers.
So the first one I had was like a blackberry gin and lime juice. I got real fancy with it.
Oh, okay.
I'm following behind that with this is a Manhattan. Classic.
You got to be coordinated with these drinks so I could get my drink ready too.
Yeah, what is wrong with you? It's cold.
I got these old-fashioned cubes because I'm lazy and I don't got your skills. I got these old-fashioned cubes that I put in the freezer and I put with a nice whiskey that I like. It's actually pretty good. It ain't what you could do, but you know, it's a little something.
We need something where we go to the bar, someone's making us a drink, we copy that, we get that whole record, and that'd be something like we'll fit that into the intro someday. What do you think of that?
Oh, that's great right there. That's actually genius.
So
wow, that's genius.
I just came up with something. Look at that. See? Look at how it works,
that was
guys.
Great. This is how we work behind the scenes, by the way. It's just that's how it rolls. Yo,
wait, my whole thing is how did you know the Knicks were going to be trash? My question is, how did you know the New York Knicks was going to be trash? Because they're trash right now.
Come on, bro. Come on, bro. I predicted that since the beginning. I said, don't get your hopes up.
But how? With knowing the guys that are on the team, I thought they were going to be a lot better than what they got.
Yeah, but but that's a story, right? Right, from back in the days, getting Amari, Carmelo Anthony. I feel like that too many times.
Back to Amari days. Damn.
Yeah, you remember that, right? I got hyped. That's why I go back to that because I remember I was generally hyped and excited, and then I got let down. So I can't play those games with them, yo. But anyways, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Drinks with Nobody. That is the man, one and only morning show, TikTok. Y'all already know, Macho. I'm Savory. Today we are talking about propaganda and media lies. I'm actually pretty excited about this episode because it's bringing home a lot of what we talk about. And I think our prep was seamless today because we were just like, yo, let's roll with this. We know exactly where we're going. Yo, I need you to do me a favor, Macho.
What's that?
Describe the media to me in one word. If you only had one word, somebody to ask you, hey, I gotta go. Tell me, what's your thoughts on the media in one word? It's a hard question. I just want to see what word comes to mind.
One word. Though I'll give it here. You only giving me one word, brother?
Mm-hmm. One word. No more than one, please.
Just like Drake titled his album. Views.
Ooh.
That's all I have. Ooh,
you know what? Views. You know what I got? I got nothing because that's great right there. Let's roll into this intro and then let's go into this clip and roll with this.
But before you do that, though, what do we do?
Oh, come on. Talk to us. You open us up.
Two liberty-loving Latinos who talk about culture and politics over our drink.
Tackling these inner city lies that's been fed to us for decades, brother. So here we are.
Let's do this.
Back at it. Showtime.
Breaking news.
A bombshell.
Today is a turning point. Today was historically bad for President Trump.
Today was a turning point.
A turning point.
We're at a turning point here.
The beginning of the end for the Trump presidency.
We have another bombshell.
Mike Pence might have to assume the office of the presidency.
Rumblings of the word impeachment.
Breaking news.
Another bombshell out of the White House.
I believe this is the beginning of the end.
I do too.
It's really the beginning of the end.
He may be feeling the walls closing in on him.
All the walls closing in on him.
The walls closing in on him.
Breaking news, a new bombshell.
One astrologer says this means the beginning of the end for President Donald Trump.
Trump will resign.
Trump is going to resign.
Is this the tipping point? I know we've said it
over and over.
You think this is a tipping point?
And over and over.
This is a tipping point.
And over and over.
Breaking news, President Trump off the rails.
It was the beginning of the end today.
The beginning of the end.
Breaking news tonight, new bombshell.
This is the beginning of the end.
The beginning of the end.
The walls are closing in.
The wall's closing in.
The wall's closing in.
Breaking overnight bombshell.
This is a very dramatic day, and I think it might be near a tipping point. Do you think this is a tipping point?
December 1st, 2017, you can mark it down. This is the day that everything changed.
The beginning of the end?
Beginning of the end.
The beginning of the end.
The beginning of the end.
The beginning of the
We begin tonight with the bombshell.
Donald Trump is in a lot of trouble.
Trump is in trouble.
The president will resign.
Another hour, another bombshell.
This is a tipping point.
Trump's going down.
This president could be impeached.
Resignation. Resignation.
I don't think this president is.
You have to ask me if I'm good in the scenes, bro. All I keep hearing is this: is this the end? Is this the end? He will resign. Mike Pence will take over, bro. That is Trump derangement syndrome 101.
And again,
like,
I only play a third of the
crazy.
video. What's been going on, bro? Even before Trump, it just accelerated with Trump. This is the media coordination that people think is crazy nowadays to talk about, but it happens. It happens where people they're coordinating on one narrative. They to the T of talking points and to the narrative conclusion that they want people to kind of come away with, right? So they don't want you to think through these things. Impeachment this, because of that. This is why. They're answering all your questions and concerns and sending you to speak this way, right? So
And if you don't, you're a Trumper.
which is it was yo,
I
and
dare
they
you
were
to say
going
that.
strong.
I dare you to say that to somebody in the hood.
And that's perfect for inner city talk. Think about what's happening in the hood, man. How many people, and this is another reality, is people who could read through the BS, but then the older generation is also stuck to the TV in many, whether that's a Hispanic family back. So that's also the reality. So it's not that they're not smart. It's when you're stuck to the TV and you're looking at the same narrative from people you think who care about you, you're going to be more written by fear, right? Which is why, like, you hear parents in inner cities, it's already a bad area with crime and drugs. Now you hear the news, what's pressed on, how everything is unfair, how Trump is going to do this. You fight against that because you think you're doing it for a good reason, but you're just stuck to the TV, right? Because they use social media less, right? They engage less on different platforms and different ideas. They're not Googling stuff. I'm talking about older generation, right? Some are, but for the most part, right, Macho, most are not, and they're going by what? By what we just showed. And again, I just showed a minute out of the 3 minutes, right? So you can imagine how bad this could get. It's a real thing, manipulative. And what's the word you use? Views. Think about
we have a new person in the house. Holly,
Definitely.
welcome. We'd like to do a shout out to anybody who's new to the
Holly,
show.
welcome. Appreciate you.
Thank you very much. You make a great point, and that is, they drive home a narrative that if we don't believe it, then we're on the other side.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like you're either with us or you're against us. And it's like, how can you not see that this should be the end of Trump? What did they say as soon as he was inaugurated? We need to impeach the president. It's like, wait a minute. That's not how it works, right?
And that's definitely not how it works. But how do they get away from that? Is because they already been drilling a narrative before he even ran, or right after he ran, especially, right? They started drilling in the narrative. They had their contingency plan of how they want it, but the point is this: we're not even going to focus on Trump today, to be honest. We just wanted to show that initial one to show you an example that was pretty clear. But at the end of the day, Macho and I today are going to focus for this next segment we got going on here. We're really going to focus on media, propaganda, and what they do, right? We're not really concerned about the topic in itself. We just want to open people's eyes to the clear lies, narrative, viewership that they go after. And this manipulation, this polarizing agenda, like Travis said, that is, again, you can't deny it. This is not about left and right here. It's about power. Because I tell Macho this all the time. If the right would have the same power, you'll see a narrative. You can argue it might be better for the country, right? You can argue that, whatever. But the point is, there'll still be a strong narrative towards one side. So we're just pointing out the power of the mainstream media as we get into this next segment right here.
Let's do it. And before we get into this, let me introduce this. This is about how to spot propaganda. Savory, this was something that was actually illustrated to the American public in 1957 about how to spot this. Now, I don't know the reason
Wow.
why, but I just want to commentate on it because I thought it was pretty funny. And when I was watching it, I was just like, I can't believe this was broadcasted. Did you know that Thomas Jefferson called the news a body of lies?
I didn't know that. A
Yeah,
body of lies.
he called it a body of lies. He
What
was
would he
very
call it now if we
critical.
resurrect him? I wonder
Oh
what he
my
would call it now,
god.
man.
He'd probably be like, "This is blasphemy. This reminds me of the crown." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like all this. I mean, I
No way
think
he
we're
could imagine
so
this.
just. I thought you brought up a good point there. I think we're so disconnected from what our founding fathers actually were fighting up against. But
Mhm.
I also don't think they were ignorant of what our new fights were going to be.
Yeah, they might have not seen the extreme of this because it's hard to guess, right? They're not prophets, they're not perfect. They kind of guessed in, or not even guessed, but calculated how bad it can get. But again, they couldn't calculate social media, right? They couldn't calculate the manipulation at the global scale. You know, they probably would have even done more things if they would have known about what social media can do, because that's how
Right.
bad it's gotten.
Let no one be deceived by the American-style peace.
Let no one be deceived. That's what the man said. I don't think you need 3 guesses to know what this is all about. But let's listen a moment longer and see what's behind it.
Peace is a word that sends cold shivers down the spines of American capitalists. Peace is what the whole world yearns for, prays for, longs for. But on Wall Street, it is a word that spells ruin. I say let the American warmongers beware. The people want peace, and we are the voice of the people.
Mao up there.
That was the voice of the Kremlin, or rather, one of its voices. There are lots of them around the world, speaking in every language.
I just can't believe, Savory, just for a second here. I just can't believe this was once broadcasted just off the ethics and the style of the broadcasting, right?
Why can't you believe it? Explain to me,
I
because
don't
I
know.
got
It's just
something for
kind
you.
of, I don't know, because, we're speaking now and looking back. So I'm looking how
Yeah,
cheesy. This is real cheesy. But this was probably like really big for people back then. You feel me?
for sure, because this was, Cold War in the
But this is
1957 or something.
trash. You got to admit, this is trash.
But was it effective? Because they had nothing else, right? It's not like they had color videos and
You're
cool, dope
looking at the
creatives.
effects of it. Okay. I'm just saying, just by all of it is trash.
Yeah, I feel you. I feel you.
This material is just another sample of what you might call the communist war without guns.
But this is against communism and the propaganda.
This is for the American public to know what propaganda even is.
Yeah, yeah. But
Because
they're using the
apparently,
example of the communist countries.
yes, because
Yeah, yeah.
apparently by their standard, America doesn't know what real propaganda was, despite the fact this came out in 1957 and 1945. They were doing propaganda to the American public. The World War II, the whole thing.
Yeah, yeah, it's always been going on. You
Yeah.
can probably argue even before that. Yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
That's true. Yeah.
And this is some of their ammunition.
Look at their ammunition.
Wow. It's funny, but it's so like, wow.
I mean, this is probably reverse propaganda, but at the same token, check this out. Could they have been revealing some of the truth?
I think so. Yeah, I think so. I think so, right? Because I'm thinking about the climate of America.
We have a
Right?
newcomer. Hello.
What's up?
Google
What's
user,
up,
what's
man?
going on?
Welcome to our live feed. We are here. So, let me say something about what you just played. For me, when I think about the Cold War was probably an era in America that highlighted the evilness of socialism, right? Highlighted the evilness, even with Reagan, fast forward past that and all that, but it highlighted the evilness of propaganda, socialism, and communism, right? Like when you think about it, it highlighted those evils. And I think America was probably taking a more of a separating themselves from them stance because things were going bad. You see, when people support socialism now, they look back in retrospect and say, they could have done it differently. But you can't say that while it's happening because it's right in front of your face. It's like when Venezuela happened recently. That's the most recent example. It's hard to just stay and say, no, they could have. No. It's like, yo, move your example to another country now. So everything was being destroyed at that time, and the communists was being exposed. So they kind of were, in a way, fighting for the capitalistic system, it seems like, or reminding people of propaganda while doing it in their own way, of course, behind the scenes.
Well, this has always been a long-term battle of capitalism versus communism. Forget socialism. Socialism is just a disguise for communism, right? There's always been two big systems, and that is capitalist and communist. And
For sure.
America has been battling up against that, and so has the communist countries.
Facts.
Look at this. Look at this, Avery.
I'm Colonel Foster. I'm going to be your guide for a short tour through the maze of communist propaganda. It's a strange, shadowy world of the doctored photograph, the misquotation, the insinuation, and the lie. Now, some of this material to us is comical. Some of it is tragic. Some of it's weird. Some of it's dull. But all of it has the single purpose of digging the grave of liberty. The grave diggers of communism have been trying to set America up for the kill for years. And it makes them very angry that we don't just collapse as per schedule. Listen to this.
I can't believe this was played.
The living conditions of the American masses, that's you, are swiftly deteriorating. Our generation is going through the final convulsions of the dying world of capitalism. That's what it says here. And if you don't believe that pamphlet, try this one. Bankrupt America may have one more war in its decaying carcass, but her young men who face nothing but brute labor, poverty, and death may refuse to fight. That's what it says here. If you're assigned to duty overseas, you may see posters like this once in a while. That's you, in case you don't recognize yourself. Of course, we get a big chuckle out of stuff like this, but
interesting.
The bigger the lie, the bigger the laugh.
The bigger the lie, the bigger the laugh. I mean, dude.
That's interesting. That's very interesting. We just showed. I think that's great to show that so because now that we're gonna play more recent ones, we kind of get to see like some of the progression. So that's good.
But how do you know nowadays? How do you know what the lie is nowadays? Because again, it was so slow back then. You had time to think. What you just played to open out the show was like boom, 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 point after point after point after point, and they literally just like bludgeon you to death with all this perspective, right?
Everyone has a voice now. Like, look at us, just in our following on TikTok, the supporters, family we're building, that's 20K plus people. And then, people didn't have that back then when he's showing that. So even the people who had some of what we're talking about here, right, and some new ideas during that time, they were sharing them amongst their family. They were sharing them amongst their smaller, now it's like the good and the bad has a voice, and then the mainstream media and people in charge of these things kind of run with narratives, and it moves much faster, right? Which I wanted kind of people to think about what he just played. And now let's see how our modern day media is also playing us in many different ways. So now we're about to play some clips here, right? These are interesting, right? Because these clips are going to show you the double standard or the narrative that we get fed, right?
No political agenda, sir. I really don't.
What about all the
that I know does either. We're purely objective journalists.
Yeah, you are. What
truly, sir, from the bottom of my heart.
Okay, I know.
Have a political dog in any
Okay,
of these
what
fights.
about all the compilation videos where they show thousands of newscasts and
That's the video I just played. He's asking about, by the way.
every city all reporting and saying the exact same thing?
Nobody tells me what to say, sir.
But there's compilation videos on YouTube and Twitter. They got millions and millions of views where every reporter in every city at every station, they say the exact same thing word for word.
So I want you to notice something here, Macho, and everyone watching.
What is that?
Right? This is during COVID, and check when he goes live what he does, right? Check this. This is a little detail, but this just show you how important what they want people to see on TV is important, right? So think of COVID and what he's doing now. Regardless of where you stand with COVID, please think critically through what's happening here.
Word. How do you explain that?
I don't know what you're referring to, so I can't really
Of course you don't. Of course you don't.
Yeah. Okay.
I know. Okay. All right.
Have a good one.
You too.
Thank you so much for your time. It was
Thank
nice
you.
to chat with you.
It was great talking to you.
Have a good one.
Put your mask on. Watch out, the virus is going to get you. Oh, why do you got to wear? You didn't have your mask on the whole time, and now you're putting your mask on. Here's the guy. He's been standing here the whole time without his mask. Here's his camera dude with no mask on. But here he is. Now he's still trying to scare everyone. Now he's going to put his mask on while he reports. Keep spreading that fear, buddy.
So again, why do you think that's important? It seems like a small thing, but think about that. That's optics, right? That's visuals. You were just speaking without a mask. No one is around you, but you won't dare to put it on TV. And I wanted to start with this one so people can see a visual representation. Whether you're for mask or against mask, right now, we're not even talking about that. All we're talking about is how the media drives a narrative forward, and what you see and hear is important. So if you see everyone speaking with a mask every single day in front of your TV, you're going to automatically see the care of your neighbor. You're going to connect it to wearing a mask 24/7. Again, nothing against wearing a mask, right? Nothing against wanting to protect yourself, but this is the narrative they feed us, right? So this man just had to put a mask on immediately before they said action. Right?
Yeah,
Mind you, there's nobody around him. There's no need for it unless you want to show that optics. And he kind of didn't even notice because this is what's expected for him at his job, I would even argue. So for him, it's like business as usual. He probably was challenged by what he said. He looked like right now he's thinking about it. He's like, damn, maybe why am I wearing a mask? Because people bring stuff to light and make you kind of think about certain things. Right? So this is important to think about, you know?
But my question, Savory, is why, right? How do we believe in this stuff when we see that they were training our public to decipher what propaganda is? Then you move forward in history. Now the federal government is licensed to spread propaganda to its own citizens, right? Despite the fact that we have the Freedom of Information Act. The Freedom of Information Act is what the judicialwatch.com uses. They utilize that freedom of information and they say, okay, this is what was to weaponize the government to find out information about us. But how about this, Savory? The Freedom of Information Act is also for us to have information to weaponize against our government. See, it's a double-edged sword. So that's where I start to go, okay, how do we decipher this information? Well, we have Freedom of Information Act, thanks to Bush and Obama, right?
Yeah. No, and those are questions you need to talk about because exactly, you see, you bring in different layers to the conversation, and how far does this go? But again, propaganda is alive and well today, and I love that you play that first clip because now, after the clips we've been playing, we get to see. And again, for those of y'all tuning in, we're showing you examples of media lies, propaganda, because remember, everything we see is tailored fit to what they want you to think, right? True journalism is reporting the facts, right? Propaganda is reporting how you want people
to narrative.
Think. A narrative, better said, exactly.
Yeah, let's look at why some of these things are happening. Cheryl Atkinson talked about this, and we covered this in a previous
I remember her.
episode
Yeah, let's
in
do
our
it.
archives, so you can check out way back when. But I just want to play a snippet of what she said in this TED Talk.
Volume. Yep, perfect.
But what if all isn't as it seems? What if the reality you found was false? A carefully constructed narrative by unseen special interests designed to manipulate your opinion. A Truman Show-esque alternate reality all around you. Complacency in the news media combined with incredibly powerful propaganda and publicity forces mean we sometimes get little of the truth. Special interests have unlimited time and money to figure out new ways to spin us while cloaking their role.
Have unlimited time and money, Savory. That is so scary to me. That is super, super scary to me. A limited time and money to spin a narrative. Do you see how dangerous that is? This is a person. Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was saying that actually says it all. I just want people to know what you just said. That says it all. Like, just imagine anything where you have unlimited time and money. You don't have to be smart, right? You don't have to be wise. All you need, just give me enough time to deal with my failures, deal with the narrative, see how I can shape it, how I can reinvent it, and how I can feed it to the people. Crazy.
Right. And the thing that I realized is when I heard her talk about this, and there's a little bit more to this I want to play, and that is this. She says that these companies have unlimited time and money to spin a narrative. What kind of narrative? Well, they come alongside a specific set of people. They're not looking to speak to the upper echelons. Right? Y'all get what I'm going here? They're not looking to speak to the higher ups in society. They masquerade as something else. I want you guys to continue seeing this. Check this out.
Surreptitious astroturf methods are now more important to these interests than traditional lobbying of Congress. There's an entire industry built around it in Washington. What is astroturf? It's a perversion of grassroots, as in fake grassroots. AstroTurf is when political, corporate, or other special interests disguise themselves and publish blogs, start Facebook and Twitter accounts, publish ads, letters to the editor, or simply post comments online to try to fool you into thinking an independent or grassroots movement is speaking.
Grassroots. Who would that be most important to, Savory?
The grassroots?
Yeah.
You're asking me by them reaching that, who would that be more important to?
Yeah. Who would be the grassroots in society?
Oh, that would be the average person, I would say, right?
That's
Yeah,
us.
That's the average
That's
person.
us.
Yeah, just the average
that
person.
means we're such a commodity that they have unlimited time, unlimited money to
good way to put it
masquerade
together.
themselves to literally speak to the average person about political issues, about getting alongside, to literally warp your mindset. So in the beginning of this TED Talk, we're done here, but in the beginning of her TED Talk, she talked about how when you go to the doctor and you have a conversation with your doctor finds something, and then you say, well, I looked this up on WMD, right? Now I got some information on myself. Doctor says, you know what? That's actually not a bad idea. Now gives you some prescriptions and you go about your merry way. She says, what if that was a plant? What if that was designed? What if that was just to tell you to buy into something that doctor and the pharmaceutical company wanted you to buy?
Man, I'm gonna say something on that because I think that was very valuable. What you said, I hear you say information is chaos. Information
All the
is,
time.
and the more I listen to that, I'm like, okay, I see where you're coming. I'm because you got to peel it back to understand where you're going with that, right? And there's a lot of that that's very true now. Because think about it, because of the lack of information is a problem. Excessive information is also a problem. Is there a perfect middle ground? I would say no. But the middle ground has to be with at least equal access to the information. What's my point in all this is when I think about all this, right? We just have so much information and people want to get ahead of the story, right? It's more important to share share, 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 regardless of if it's facts, regardless if it's true, fact check, because they know that there's too much information. The competition now, it's information. So I don't have time to fact check a story. I don't have time
Who
to call my
does?
resource.
Who
No one
does?
has time because the next person come with their next story. You get what I'm saying? While we're trying to be the truthful ones.
As Denzel Washington said, it's not about the story. It's not about the truth or whether it's a lie. It's about who's first.
Exactly, and that's a
Who's
big problem.
first?
Yeah.
That's
And
it.
this is an interesting clip here I'm gonna play, all right? Because you people will probably remember this, all right? And this is where the protest was going crazy, and this journalist with a fire behind him said, fiery but mostly peaceful protests. And it's almost comedy, but here we go.
Multiple locations that have been burning in Kenosha, Wisconsin over the course of the night. A second night since Jacob Blake was seen shot in the back 7 times by a police officer. And what you are seeing now, these images came and come in stark contrast to what we saw over the course of the daytime hours in Kenosha and into the early evening, which were largely peaceful demonstrations in the face of law enforcement. It wasn't until night fell that things began to get a little bit more contentious. Things were thrown back and forth. Police started using some of those crowd dispersal tactics like tear gas, even playing very loud sounds to push them out. And then what you're seeing, the common theme that ties all of this together is an expression of anger and frustration over what people feel like has become an all too familiar story playing out in places from across the country, not just here in Kenosha, Wisconsin. Christine?
He's
describing a whole scene. Hold on, Macho. You have to put this. He's describing an entire scene. Right, there were riots, businesses were burned down. It's happened here. This is verifiable, right? I'm not inventing this. This is verifiable in that location. After the Jacob Blake incident, you had businesses being burned down. You had a lot of looting, a lot of glass on the floor, and the cops responded with tear gas. You know, he happens to call very loud sounds. There were gunshots. So while that's behind him, he has the confidence to have a scene behind him of chaos and say it was mostly peaceful. Why? You only have the audacity to say something like that if you know most people are going to buy it, because most people already bought your 30 stories on Jacob Blake.
Hell could be happening behind me, but I could just tell you it's mostly peaceful because you're going to buy it.
Exactly.
That's how depraved we are. You're saying that's how depraved we are.
But let me tell you something, Macho. It's one reason I know. Let me tell you why. It's because I know that you bought into my 30 lies prior to this. So me lying to you in your face, it's not a huge deal because you already believed 30 other lies. Crazy, man. Crazy.
Yeah, and this is, I'm not surprised by this, because when people in just a few years made a sitting president the enemy of the state, they pretty much made a sitting president an enemy of the state, whether it was political, foreign policy, or even here, right? He was a white supremacist. He was a racist, all these things. And outside foreign policy, he was a lunatic. He was authoritative. He was a thug, right? All these kinds of things. There was no win for the former administration. Not a single win. Right?
Crazy.
In the liberal media. Mind you, when you look back at the Bushes, there was wins. There was blippets of times where CNN would cover George W. Bush and be like, you know what? The country is united behind Bush. 9/11, united we fall. United we stand. Divided we fall. Right? So there was all this narrative that was spewed, and then something changed during the Obama years. Something significantly changed. What was that? In 2013, even David Pakman, who I consider is he's a serious progressive on YouTube. Check out David Pakman. It won't be long before you find out, man, this guy is pretty progressive. Yeah. Even David Pakman had issues with some of the things that Obama was passing. What was that? In 2013, unanimously voted in the NDAA, the modernization bill, the defense bill. Not only spews out propaganda to foreign people, but now is okay and authorized to spew out propaganda to its own citizens. It's over. It's free game now.
And again, I wonder how many
It's free
things,
game.
Macho, we were distracted by when that bill passed. How many breaking news and things were in front of us, because these people get really crafty,
Forget about what was said.
creative.
Forget about what was said. When you have a society so shallow to just focus on skin color, anything could pass. Forget about the words. It's what I see now. Oh, black man in office? What he's passing is for my interest. No, it's not.
Yeah.
No, it's not.
Critical
And that
thinking
was
out
the
the window.
biggest okey doke. That was the biggest like misdirect. I'm black. I could do whatever I want.
Nah,
This has not.
it's a genius card when you think about it, because it's you get everybody's shield down, and you're like, hey, you got someone who loves you and protects you in office. So hey, don't
I
ask
look
too many
like
questions,
you.
Macho. I look like you. You know what I'm saying? I
I
understand
sound
you.
like you. What
Don't
about when he
worry.
would walk around? He would literally culture appropriate. The guy never grew up in the hood. I'm gonna
No,
say
he
this
never grew up
louder
in-
for people out there.
Yeah, that's
Obama
facts.
never grew up in the hood, but would
He learned
act
the
hood.
handshakes though. You know what I'm saying? He
would
learned
come
the
up to people.
dabs.
He'll give them the
He learned, you know what I'm
dabs.
saying? Like
He
he
was
learned all
playing
that.
basketball, right? He was the biggest culture appropriator if I ever saw one. He didn't grow up in the hood. He didn't grow up where me and you grew up. He grew up in
Not by
Honolulu. He
any
grew up in
stretch
Hawaii.
of the imagination, bro.
My man grew up in a suburban life. Had a white grandma, had a
White
white
grandma,
mom,
yep.
doesn't even know his father. So how do you know anything or any kind of aspects of carrying yourself in the fashion of the inner city? This was a masquerading attempt. This was to say,
It worked.
like Shelby Steele said, is I'll be your guy, I'll be your face, but we'll work with you. We will be on bounce. Guys, check out what Shelby Steele talks about in White Guilt in his book. He talks about this ad nauseum. He breaks it down to the T. Obama had no clue what it is to relate to me and you. No clue. But yet has Jay-Z in the White House. Jay-Z grew up within miles of us in Marcy Projects. I grew up in the projects not too far. In the borough. You grew up across the way. So it's like, how does a guy like Obama connect to me? How does even Ben Carson? I would say Ben Carson had a harder life than Obama.
In many
but
ways,
even
you can
still,
argue, yeah.
But even still, how would Ben Carson connect to us? He can't.
That's why we have to go to that local level, be really involved, and see what we're actually doing, and not be so dependent on who's going to come in and out of office. Even though, to be honest, Macho, we see the effects of
Stop
two
being a
different styles
shallow
of leadership.
society. Stop being a shallow society.
Yeah.
Stop focusing on the outward. Look deeper. Look deeper. Dig deep. Every single person on Drinks with a Nobody, that's what we're all about. Discuss the deeper things, not the shallow
Facts.
surface stuff.
Yeah, and I want to share something for our final segment here. We focus on the media today, propaganda, the lies, but this was all for a reminder to people. One, America is not bulletproof, people. Trust me, America is not bulletproof to what happens worldwide. We has been fortunate enough to keep a fight alive, to keep the tension alive, to have free speech and X, Y, and Z, things like gun rights and all these things. But every country, right? Look at the dictatorships, right? There's never a country that runs a dictatorship, a type of socialistic or communistic government that can stay alive with a free press. Let me tell you why. When you have a free press,
Talk
you
to
have
him.
dissenting voices. You have people who gain traction and power. You have influencers. You have people going against the narrative. This is why they lock up their political enemies and then they take over the media. So they lock up their enemies, and step two, let's take over the media, and we're going to feed you what you need to believe. We're going to feed you the facts that we deem appropriate, right? Ooh. So they go through this list of things. So I want people to just think through that, right? Take a second and look at what Fidel Castro did. Look at what the USSR did. Stalin, Mao. It's the same Trujillo and DR. It's the same playbook. Maduro. I'm telling you, this playbook is not an original play. It's not that these people are convincing that no. Once they take power, they know to keep it. They're not real leaders. A real leader doesn't demand followers, right? People just follow because of the influence they have, right? And you can argue that to a certain extent, even with Obama and Trump. I would say both of them to a certain extent. They had some kind of true leadership, right? This president, that's a different conversation. But the point is, we need to be wary when the media continues to lie at this level. And when people like Mantra and myself, just your average person, your average nobody, can't really speak, because that's a red flag. So I want to leave people with that so they can kind of dig into like the manipulation of this dictators, So
thank you for joining us, guys. We'll see you guys back here on Wednesday night at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Thanks for joining.